Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. Data storage and data security have become a growing concern in the minds of many, particularly in the eye of a global pandemic. So what makes for a future-proof, sound data management strategy? Well, to share his take, tonight on the show I'm joined by a very special guest, the Senior Vice President of Global Sales and Sales Operations with Seagate, BS Teh. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
The new normal has certainly served as a wake-up call for how we conduct business. But what has that meant with respect to data management strategies? Have you seen them shore up and become more sophisticated? Or has this priority fallen to the wayside for enterprises across the board?
Yes, indeed. I think today everybody's talking about the new normal. And we see it every single day. Now, specifically for data storage, what does that actually translate to? Firstly, I think work from home or working remotely is now the new normal. And when you work from home, right, there's really a need for you to be able to share information across the globe. There's a need to ensure that information that is shared remains secure. And thirdly, the information that you require are being available to you real time. So these are highly impactful, changes to really how companies have been using data before, and as such, these challenges now are being looked at very carefully.
Are you beginning to witness a similar mindset shift when it comes to consumers? We of course understand that corporates are particularly alert when it comes to their data management best practices, but are consumers now starting to demonstrate the same tendencies?
Absolutely. I think, first and foremost, I think there continues to be a proliferation of data that's being created by consumers, and secondly, data that's being consumed by consumers that is really not local, but rather to really be streamed either from the cloud, from other locations as well. So this is really all about data movement, and so as I mentioned earlier, companies are really having to deal with these challenge. Likewise, consumers are really having this similar trend as well.
In your customer interactions at Seagate, when essentially the community approaches you with their data security related concerns, how do you address these concerns and how do you alleviate them in the minds of the customer?
There's really three areas to address, broadly speaking, when it comes to security. The first and foremost is a secure supply chain, and the secure supply chain really is to ensure that products, when it is actually shipped to the corporations and the companies, are really secure and free from any contamination, if you will. So that's really at the starting point. When you receive the equipment, right, is it secure? Secondly, it's about ensuring that, how secure is the data, right, once you start, filling in the storage devices. And for that, right, Seagate has, various levels of security disk drives where we store the data. That's one of the most secure in the world, that ensures that the data that you're actually storing is extremely secure. Now, thirdly, you need to move the data around, right? So that's really where it's open to risk, and that's really where you need to have very secure protocols in place to manage the data when it flows from when it moves from one location to another.
When it comes to a data management solution, what do you believe customers care most about? Is it affordability? Is it accessibility? Is it perhaps the assurance that their data remains intact irrespective of the surveillance environment?
A fair amount of differences depending on the type of data and the type of industry as well, but commonly across the board, the number one concern is security. That is without a doubt. Number two really is accessibility and how you're able to really move the data around. And then thirdly, it's about speed, right? How quickly you're able to access the data. So these are really three very critical issues that most corporations would look at.
Given that studies indicate that companies typically leverage only a fraction of the data that is made available to them, they obviously are encountering challenges along the way. But how do you make it clear to them that not harnessing that data actually puts them on the path of serial disadvantages?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. And we often say that it always starts with awareness. In the surveys, we find that, there's, I think, it always has to start with being aware of what data is being generated and what amount of data that's actually being used. And once you actually have that level of awareness, then you can actually start putting in place strategies to address the challenges.
Now, many customers may come to you, voicing the opinion that data is constantly in motion, data is constantly on the move. How can you ultimately harness something that's never in the same place? How do you respond to that?
Well, to use the cliche again, this is the new normal, right? Data is in motion, and more of the data, as much as 57% of the data in the next 2 years, will be moving between the edge and the core, and that's up from just about 36% today. So significant growth in that data in motion. So I think companies will have to really understand that and put in place, right, the various steps to really address this. What are some of the key steps? The first one is really going to be security. How do you ensure that the data in motion is secure? Secondly, you're going to put in place the infrastructure to be able to support the movement of the data, and that entails understanding where the data is and where you're moving the data to, and the amount of time that's going to be taken, the latency that's going to be challenged when you move the data around. And thirdly, it's going to be about the cost of moving the data. So these are, I would call, fundamental issues that corporations would need to address and understand.
A sound data management strategy is, of course, as much about storage and security as it is about data analytics. So at what point does one aspect end and the second begin?
I think it's all intermingled, really, right? There is, basically across the board, security is end to end, storage is end to end, operations is end to end, and analytics is really all end to end as well. So really, that's why we stress the importance of the data ops function, because the data ops function really would be able to address this and really looking at where the data is being created to the point where the data is being consumed, and what are all the different steps and challenges and constraints that corporations would have in actually going through this flow.
Data ops is, of course, a discipline that Seagate has rallied behind from the very beginning. But for the benefit of our viewers, what does the term constitute in tangible terms?
Well, data ops fundamentally is really about a function that looks at where the data is being created or generated, right? And to the point of understanding how the data is being consumed. And basically what goes on in between that, right? Whether it's in terms of movement of the data, whether it across the different locations or the different silos, the analytics aspect of the data, right? Where is the data being analyzed, and of course the latency that's involved in actually moving the data from one location to another. So that is the discipline, in our view, what data ops is all about. Data storage is definitely a growth industry. If I were starting over, for example, I would really be very, very motivated to pursue a career in data storage.
Now, the Rethink data report has become an industry gold standard of sorts in the data management space. How have these findings essentially shaped the trajectory of various companies in this space, and Seagate in particular?
Well, our hope and our goal is that that companies would have a higher level of awareness of both the risks, but more importantly, the opportunities that exist for them. As we've said earlier, the more information, the more data that could be used, the more information it creates, and surveys have shown that it really leads to a much better business outcome. So it is really a tremendously important investment, and our hope is that companies look at this seriously, put priority on this. Now, certainly from a Seagate standpoint, data storage is really an area of expertise for us, and we believe we can add tremendous value to the industry by sharing, our technology and our know-how, and hopefully be able to proliferate this.
Now, so many small businesses, whether it be SMEs or startups, are struggling with competing priorities right now. So, in this context, does a data management strategy need to be inbuilt within the four walls of a company, or is this something that you would recommend outsourcing if required?
Yes, I think there's no one size fit all strategy really, right? In terms of data management, and I think that is the beauty of this all, because there will be different solutions depending where you are in firstly in your readiness and also in terms of your scale. I would say that data storage and data management is one of the hottest startup areas within the tech field, and there's more and more innovative solutions that is really coming and becoming available as well.
Do you consider this data management space and sector to be incredibly fragmented, or do you perhaps witness consolidation being a natural byproduct of the pandemic within the context of this specific sector?
I would say that by and large, it's somewhat fragmented, but really consolidating in some ways. So, firstly, I think there is definitely perceivable shift to public cloud. So, 51% of storage will be on public cloud, in the next 2 years. Secondly, there's definitely a move towards software-defined storage and object-oriented software as well. A movement away from the file systems before in the past. So that's consolidating towards that as well. And in terms of hardware architecture, the hyper-converged infrastructure again is starting to really gain in terms of popularity. So in short, while there's lots of different solutions out there, but the general trends are becoming more and more consistent throughout the world.
Now, Seagate, of course, caters to companies across the globe, and it's made significant inroads in the Indian ecosystem in particular. What are some of the challenges that the company has perhaps encountered in the context of entering and fully permeating the Indian market?
Well, we see India as a market that's really evolving and quite a bit, particularly in the last 2 years. I think If you look back, the Indian market was largely a client consumer PC type market. We see that moving very, very quickly right now towards the cloud enterprise. Video surveillance is also a very, very large opportunity that's emerging in India as well. So really, I think one of the challenges that we have is as the market starts to grow in all these different areas, are we able to really move as quickly as the market, or ahead of the market, I should say, right? To really understand the trends well, and to engage with the customers and really support them.
And for young entrepreneurs who are eyeing this space, who are considering pursuing a career in this space, what might you like to share with them in terms of anecdotes that you may be able to draw from your own personal and professional journey?
Data storage is definitely a growth industry, and a very, very exciting one, because there's just so much that you can do within data, and it actually spans a very, very broad sphere. For example, right, security is going to be critical. Analytics is going to be critical. Hardware and software both are going to be critical as well. So really, it would not be if I were starting over, for example, I would really be very, very motivated to pursue a career in data storage.
So for the disbelievers out there that still don't make the connect between data storage and data management best practices vis-a-vis organizational efficiency, how do you essentially bring them over to your side and have them see the light at the end of the tunnel?
I think studies such as the Rethink data hopefully would help to create that level of awareness. I think what we want to do is to really help point them in the right direction by making available information to really help them understand the challenges, and to also help them understand that there are solutions. I mean, these are difficult solutions. These are difficult challenges, I would say, but not without solutions and answers. And I think we're at a point where we have a really a high degree of awareness of what the challenges are. And there's a lot of investments and work being put in right now to really create and define solutions for these challenges. I think the question really is what are the solutions that work best for each of the company, and research such as the Rethink data hopefully would help to give that information to companies and to help them really evaluate where the position is and how they can move forward.
And so by way of closing comments, for the data management space, has this pandemic essentially been a blessing or a curse?
Well, any pandemic is never a blessing. For obviously people have been really impacted by it one way or another, right? But at the same time, I wouldn't really quite call it a blessing, but I think I prefer to call it a silver lining, right? And the silver lining really would be more of the growing awareness of the importance of data storage, the growing awareness of the fact that as we change the way we operate in our lives, there's really nuances such as how you use the data and how you create the data has changed, and this leads to the different opportunities, not just for Seagate but for many other companies that are in this field.
So, well, thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you very much.